Right. Good evening, collective. How is everyone doing? This is Dr. Samuel Lombardo, the Executive Director, CEO, Financier Agent Coach, and Consultant for SL Models and Tone Agency LLC, Fashionista Studios LLC, Artist Gala USA LLC, and Couture Designs Photography LLC. And internationally known as the Soul Mending Alchemist, which is trademark for my name. You can follow me on YouTube actually at Dr. Samuel Lombardo. It doesn't show up for some reason as Soul Mending Alchemist 1111. So, and I think that there's a reason for that. So, yes, it is under Dr. Samuel Lombardo. You can follow me on TikTok at Divine Guide 1111. I am on there under that name. And also, you can follow me on the web at www.soulmendingalchemist.com. And you can email me at info@soulmendingalchemist.com or at soulmendingalchemist1111@gmail.com. All right. I think that's all the introductory notes I need. I'm going to give you a disclaimer. Basically, just take what resonates and leave the rest, and if it does not apply, let it fly. You could hear me speak about different roles such as masculine and feminine, divine and or karmics from time to time. Also, you can switch the roles as you see fit, and also roles will be switched for those that are cross watchers as well. Tonight I wanted it to go ahead and start on that second topic on the ending of the Laodicean church and what it actually really means, and why this is very, very important for us to know, especially even as Christians, if you will, why it is that we would actually need to know about the Laodicean church. But first, let's talk about what a Laodicean church is. A Laodicean church is a lukewarm church. It is Christians that seem to be good people in your face and will act a part, but will not necessarily be the same away from church. Okay. In other words, they think differently. They are very comfortable in the church. Some of them aren't necessarily content with what they do have, okay, and then some want more. There are different layers of sin. I'm not going to sit there and discuss all of those layers, but there are different layers of sin, such as slothfulness, pride, greed, etc., of which most of us really understand. And to be honest, the Laodicean church is also occupied by spiritual ego reflection. In case if you didn't know what that means, it's a term that I use. Spiritual ego reflection is when you are actually you are actually projecting your own ego and your own situations toward other people. And then you are actually seeing that that is not others that you are actually seeing. So you're like being more of a projector, not necessarily someone who is living in and out, not being real, if that makes sense. Okay. And we want to be real. This live really talks about the judgment that Raguel, Michael, Ariel, Metatron, and Jeremiel is creating towards Christians who are trying to project their behavior and cause spiritual manipulation toward others for their own purpose, for their own consciousness, so that they are able to get away with that. And the last group of people that have done that, obviously, if you read the book of Matthew, it talks about, I think it's around the 25th, 26th chapter, where the Pharisees question Jesus, like, well, I have gave my tithes, I have helped the poor, I have done that. So I have done that. And then Jesus said, I never knew you. And Jesus said, this is the reason why I did not know you. I did not know you because all these good things that you are trying to manipulate in your own power was to take away from who you really are. In other words, Jesus was like, you're not going to project to me thinking that you are going to try to tell me that you belong in a place where sin does not reside, all because you're doing something good and your heart is not in the same place. So this is a situation where the ego and the heart, again, does not connect well. And this is a prime example for even Christians where the ego and the heart cannot be connected together. They cannot be connected together. And Jesus, and being a ascended master, he is telling you that by you doing good does not necessarily mean that this will give you a ticket to heaven. Works isn't totally gonna work if you're not able to have faith in it. If you're not doing it in love, if you're not doing it with the faith, right? We have been talking about I've been talking about this even way before this, okay? This is just this is really honestly touching basis on the reality of what God wants from us. Okay, so the Laodicean church is really a relaxed set of group of Christians who will try to manipulate their good behavior to try to manipulate others into believing that everything that they do is great, but it also manipulates their behavior in creating situations, if you will, where if you were doing the same scenario, you would actually end up being in trouble for it, is what they say. Well, this is a sin, but the way that I do it is not a sin. And also, I'm going to just say this. A Laodicean church is a church that has fake Christians and a manipulative leadership team. Understand, I'm talking about Laodicean churches. I'm not talking about Laodicean people. There is a difference, although you would have that manipulative power and in order to actually manipulate other people thinking that you are the church that is holier than thou. And this is not what we're supposed to do. We're not, excuse me, sorry. We're not supposed to honestly be racing towards heaven. We are supposed to be loving. We are supposed to be working towards heaven, allowing God to seek us out, and we are supposed to really just use our spiritual gifts for the purpose of healing, not for trying to manipulate our own agenda toward other people and then turn around and talk about how someone else is a sinner when you're doing the very same thing. Does that make sense? Hopefully I'm making myself clear here. So what is Raguel going to do to make it fair for a Laodicean church that wants to manipulate their power towards other Christians? Well, let's see what God had told me, and now you're going to hear it from the intuition. All right, I'm not pulling cards on that. So you're just a little bit more in depth than what cards can actually project in this case, because there's a lot into this. And in fact, I'm hearing, so I am going to pray and I am going to allow the angel itself to channel in, and they will actually explain it. When I pray for the healing of the Christian, pray for the churches that they open their eyes and see, open their hearts to love, and open their minds to be able to speak out the truths. Judgment Day is coming. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the trouble that we are seeing that is causing confusion today in the churches. We are, first of all, we are confusing what is fair and what is not, what is love and what is not. And obviously, if any of you out pay very, very close attention, nobody knows the justice, and everybody is preaching confusing messages. Why is that? Because in the human race, it is not truly understood in God's power how justice really works. And we are too focused on what exactly is revolving around the plan of justice. Well, let me just go ahead and give you a very short, precise answer to that. Take a boy and his mother, and he's working on the stove, and he says, "Mother, is the stove hot?" The mother says, "Yes, if you put your hand on the stove, you're going to burn." Well, the boy doesn't listen, and he says, "But Mom, how do you know that it's hot?" "Because I know that anything that is, it takes a lot of heat to be able to cook the things that I'm cooking for you to do, son." "Yeah, but Mommy, the knob wasn't on." For some of us, we may have thought that we put the heat on, and others may have forgotten that they did. But for the sake of this argument, the boy didn't listen to Mommy. He put his hand on the burner and he burned him. Well, now he's crying. And obviously, what are some of the things that he said? "Mommy, this hurts. Mommy, why? Why did you allow me to do this? Mommy, this, Mommy, that, and the other thing." And the next thing you know, Mommy says, "Well, I told you so. I told you that the stove will be hot. Do not touch it." So don't tell me that I didn't pre-warn you. And you get the signs every day. In the human race, you get the signs every day telling you where you are in your life. When you get these warnings, it isn't for us to sit there and throw it in your face and say, "Hey, yeah, there is a wall in front of you. You should be able to see the wall in front of you." I mean, do you think that, in all honesty, do you think that we really have time to justify the stupidity of the earth that would really rectify a mistake when everything is given in front of you? You know, to be very honest, it's been very interesting lately. Now, the signs of the times are very, very clear. On the human race, on the planet Earth, there is way too many excuses. Too many people make excuses for whether they to accept their rights or to accept their wrong. in quite honesty, um, there needs to be a little bit of balance. When you got the intentions to maliciously, yes, that's what I mean, on purpose, talk against your brother in a church, do you not think that God would not hold you responsible for that? Why is such scary times is because we are allowing Lucifer, we're allowing the devil, if you will, and his tricks and lies and sneakiness to penetrate the truths that are being exemplified and even given to you in plain daylight on the earth. And believe me when I say this, we are very well aware of the tricks and the slanders and the manipulation that the devil uses on people to so that your wrongs can be rights and your rights would be wrong. By the way, let me pause for a minute and let me explain something to you. Something that maybe some of you understand, but not all of you. And that is that the world, honestly, the earth has tipped itself upside down. And I'm talking legitimately, literally. I'm not talking about, you know, metaphorically speaking. And by the way, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that Earth also in the universe has its own retrogrades as well. And this is one of them. It's at a standstill because of the presence, if you will, of the guardians, of which God is allowing to take place on the earth here to project what is to come. An ending will take place while a new beginning will happen. And I'm pretty sure that I am to be talking about all this here tonight. So I will go ahead and bring it all to the table. The first ending is the ending of the Laodicean churches, for which, as a whole, will be judged. Everything will be on a standstill. So if you're looking for money to be able to do renovations, if you're looking for money because you're about to miss your bills, do expect that to continue to unfold, whether it would be in a negative consequence or a positive consequence based off of the judgment that will be given towards the church. Because at this point, Laodicean churches are going to be closed up. Now, what that means, and I want you to hear this out very, very clearly. What it means is that the churches will not be available to actually, the church will still be there. But what they trying to do or make it grow or expand or whatnot will not be. And it will be a dying church because the church will die from its members. And then essentially the doors will lock up. Other churches that mean well will buy these churches out. Churches that don't sit around judging other people for their behaviors. Now, I will be honest, because there's been a lot of this going on out there about how God says, you know, there are several things. Like God says that, you know, certain things are big sins and other things are not. And the truth of the matter is, all of it is sin. There is no separation from sin, just so that you can manipulate your own behavior to be better than others. All of it is sin. So you could pick on someone who is a celibate that wants to follow God and loves God in his heart, but will not act on homosexuality, but yet you can judge him and say he's a sinner because he claims he is. But you're just as bad when you're actually, you know, when you're manipulating the fact that God, that you're saying that God has no say about whether or not you can drink wine. And why we should calculate the wine to make it seem like it's purifiable. Purifiable and ferment are two different things. These are scenarios of which, by the way, get tossed around quite a bit. And I'll even make it even, I'll give you another common one. The one where the world is very confused right now. We're turning the grass into a weed field, folks. You don't think that we actually know that? And every excuse, and I'll tell you what the excuse is. It's bringing money in. It don't matter. You're going to sit there and lie all you want about, oh, well, yeah, it heals the mind. No, it slows the mind down. It don't heal the mind. It slows it down. It slows the patterns down. Like, there's nothing in that actually supports anything except for the dollar because of the greed of people. And now there are other people who are trying to get away with it by saying, oh, I can have just certain amounts of this, certain amounts of that. And they're trying to beat the system on how they can make a dollar because they are legalizing things that really, in all honesty, to be honest, let me just tell you point blank, I care less if it was legal or not from the get-go. The point is it's just like everything else that it does harm you after a while. Okay, and if you think that God authorizes it, I'm here to tell you that's one of the things that you're going to realize he doesn't. Because because there is something else that we are addressed to do with that. So for that judgment, for that justice, if this is something that you are used to, be mindful that there may be some kind of a weird taste coming from it. because we are going to ferment it. And you know what? We'll let me give you another little tweaks, if you will, about what I mean by this. It's not going to have the same uh, chemicals, if you will, coming from that plant. And God says, well, you know, we can't harm everybody, and some people are just ignorant of it, which is true. All right. So we are being authorized to do something else about something that in actuality would have been harmful. So what is this thing about Sodom and Gomorrah and turning around and turning into a stone or a pillar of salt? And how everybody just simply just right away judges homosexuality to be part of it? No, actually homosexuality is just a tenth of the part of it. Why don't you talk about the people who are around? Or the people that got 3 or 4 or 5 husbands or wives, and they forget which one that they had last. Interesting, right? This isn't a memory cycle game that I'm projecting here. This is more or less basically more or less us really just bringing into the concept what it is that is being seen here. There are going to be a lot of people. Here's the thing now. Anyone that does judge God's people for judging them wrong, rightly, knowing that they are in the wrong, we will automatically remove it. Because right now, our main goal is to make sure that we are in the saving business. So we're not worried about someone who don't want to listen. There are people that need healing. But if you don't want to listen, then again, we're going to talk about the ego here in a minute, because the ego death is also coming. But it really goes to the freedom of choice of you letting that ego go. So the power of the ego is really everything about self. Your pride, your guilt, your self-awareness, your codependency, your independency, whatever it may be. Fear sits in the ego. Love sits in the heart. And there are also layers of love, with peace actually being at the highest level of that. Long suffering is actually, and forgiveness is actually the text of the heart that should open yourself up to love. Now, what I am seeing doesn't matter if you're spiritual, a Christian, or any other person on the earth. What I am seeing is a good 62% of the earth who is honestly closed at the heart level, meaning that you will even say to the people one way or the other who you get in contact with, oh, I closed myself up to. I closed myself up to. This is what I closed myself up to. ... If you notice, God don't close up to nothing. And God is wide open. He is well aware. And he's watching. So if he's able to do it, then there is an opportunity. See, even his son Jesus has came on this earth to project the power of love. But there were a lot of people that were closed up to it, to the point that they had nailed him to the cross. It was easier to get rid of him because he was one guy that was odd in the whole entire puzzle of the world at that time. That was basically the joke of the town, so to speak. Oh, well, you know, this Jesus says that he's the Son of God. Okay, well, if you're the Son of God, then you should be able to turn the city, change the city, and give us the light that we are looking for, and this and the other and the other. Well, here's the problem. Jesus was there to give you that, but you wasn't open to it, which is why you thought that Jesus was the problem, when in actuality, he was the solution. And now, even with some of you in your own lives, you're over here judging people because you're thinking that they are the problem when they are the solution. And then you are wondering, well, why is this happening? And believe me, Lucifer has the power to also manipulate followers, manipulate conquest, manipulate power to literally look like everybody is going towards this and not actually following God. And now there's a lot of people that are actually sitting around wanting spiritual advice. Well, so you can play at that game as well. You want spiritual advice? God says, all right, I'm going to heal some spiritual healers. And, well, one way or the other, the truth must be told. It's crazy how the world, how the earth thinks. They have to see it to believe it. But if it helps you heal when you're able to see it, then God says, fine. God says, okay. I will get those who are honest, and I will show myself in unusual ways. Do you know one unusual way that God has shown himself through his son Jesus was through a star that was with other types of tarot readers and astrologers? Am I saying that that is correct? That that's what you should be doing? I didn't say that. But what I am saying is that if you want to know the truth, we are going to find true spiritual healers that is going to give you the truth one way or the other. Then it's going to be up to you, dead serious, when I say this. It's going to be up to you whether or not you want to continue on down the trail of the devil and the pit to hell, or if you want to go ahead and see in the light toward heaven. Because that's going to be your option. And I'm going to be very honest, your reward is in heaven, not here on the earth. Here on the earth, it is really just being about content of what you have. It's not saying that we cannot allow you to have more. In fact, God wants his people to have more. And right now would be the best time to get more than ever, because he needs more people healed. Now, spiritual healing and spiritual therapy, okay, is different from doing the work, okay, in, say, being a pastor. We've been seeing where a lot of pastors make more money than even a CEO of a major business. If not, probably around the same amount. And I will be very honest, that's a greedy pastor, because for the most part, he's a shepherd to be watching his flock. And there is very specific scriptures that God has put by inspired writers to actually illustrate the actual job description of what a pastor, a deacon, and an elder, deaconesses, and etc. should do. It's not sitting there trying to manipulate and quiet woman. It's not there to sit there and in fact, if you notice about Mary Magdalene and Margaret and all of them, these were actual healers. So they could literally still open their mouth, maybe not in the same way that we're asking the man at the pulpit to do it, but the woman still is able to open her mouth. That is the problem. And because she knows how to open her mouth in a certain way, she is frowned upon with certain lengths of people on the earth. I'm sorry, folks, if you can never understand this topic, your marriages will not even succeed. Because it takes a man and a woman to make it happen. And if you cannot listen to the woman and you think that you're the only one with the power, when you need to be working together, then that is the reason why you're still single. Because there's something still blocking you from that energy. You're not understanding it. Like I said, I wish that I had good news. This isn't even straight intuition. This is straight message. We don't want any confusion here. The devil decided that he was going to go ahead and try to trick everybody, shorten their tempers and their patience with this COVID situation, separating political instances as excuses for their behaviors. Now we got politics in the churches. That's the number one thing that is going to knock the church right into the hellhole. It has turned political. When I hear for the American flag inside of a church, I understand that the American flag is important for the American people. Or the UK flag is important for UK. Okay, we get that. All right. But if that's going to become your idol, look out, because that's like the third commandment right there. Not to have any other idol for you. And if you think you're going to surpass that judgment just because, well, you're a good person, we need to readjust our behaviors, because church is not the White House. The White House is not the church. In fact, let me tell you what's more closer to the church than any of it, including the church itself, is your heart. So if you got to be around other people, and it's necessary that you got to be around other people, then you are teasing yourself, you're manipulating yourself to honestly needing to be around somebody in order to show that you're a Christian. Now, that is not the same as saying that public worship is important, because it is. It is rightfully so. There are many things that must be taken care of in the churches. For example, I don't know what a sprinkle is. I don't care to want to know what a sprinkle is. Nobody is going to convince me otherwise that sprinkling is acceptable, when even Jesus was accepted by God through a dove in his spirit by being baptized in a lake. We're not saying that you got to have holier water, like you got to mix it with chemicals and abracadabra, poof, okay, you got holy water. That's not what we're saying, but baptism by immersion must be acceptable. Jesus did not choose to be baptized in a lake on purpose. He was guided to John the Baptist to be baptized appropriately through immersion. And part of it had to do with the symbolism that even Jesus at that time had no idea why he was being put down and back up. It's all about being resurrected, burying the old and resurrecting with the new. So what a sprinkle is, I have no idea. I don't know what that is because the Bible does not speak about sprinkles. I'm not saying that, okay, and that's another thing that, let me back it up. Let me back it up, okay? Because there are good people in all places. I'm talking to the Laodicean churches that are not awakened and need to change policies that are going to be rightful towards God. Such as these excuses about remembering the Sabbath day. The Sabbath day is the Sabbath, the seventh day. It's plain and simple. It's in Scripture. It's all over the other scriptures. Yes, I understand he resurrected on the first day of the week. I understand that as well. We have the celebrations, but again, they are celebrations that are technically, by the way, up to you if you want to do them or not. They're not obligated. So if you choose that you want to thank God for sending his son to be resurrected, sure, go ahead and worship on, if you want to go sing praises of his resurrection on Sunday and, have some poems or psalms and praise him, great. But the Sabbath must still be accepted as a seventh day, and that's the true fight that's going on here. Here's another thing that I want to bring to your attention when it comes to churches, okay? Stop worrying about what other churches are doing, okay? First of all, I want to put that out there. Second off, okay, make sure that what you are saying is healing the person towards the church and not scaring them away from the church. All while at the same time, you must understand that you are no longer ignorant about God's fourth commandment. Okay, now I hear something else. Okay, well, didn't he bury it in the tomb with him? I don't know. They found his robe in the tomb. Did they find the tablets in there too? They find the Dead Sea Scrolls up in there too? Okay, what truth are we preaching here when we're talking about Jesus buried the old covenant into the grave? What does that mean? Help Raguel understand what that means, because some of us are confused. By the way, happy Sabbath. It's the seventh day of the week. No, what did they say? The sundown Friday or sundown Saturday. I mean, it is it's the seventh day of the week. Okay. It doesn't matter what day that you make it. You could turn around and put Sunday as a seventh day, you could change the calendar backwards and frontward, and it's still going to be the seventh day regardless. People don't get it. 7 is 7 on the calendar, okay? That's going to be the compromise. I can see it already. Oh, we'll just switch Saturday with Sunday. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. We already know that it's going to come. Go ahead and do it. And you know what? As stupid as that's going to sound, Sunday is going to be the seventh day of the week. Okay? It doesn't stop you for the fourth commandment. What, now you're going to force everybody to worship on Saturday? You know, they can switch backwards. I know it sounds kind of crazy for some of you, but the truth of the matter is the devil does have tricks up his sleeves. And I'm forewarning you now ahead of time. For those of you that really do honestly take this serious, because that's what I'm doing. I'm here to tell you something that is serious, because there's a fight going on in the spiritual realm with this sneaky devil, okay? But that's the thing now. The Laodiceans are going to be asleep on that. Those of you that are awakened, you're going to end up going to church on this, quote, seventh day switched around Sunday. And you're going to end up literally filling in the pews that the others walked out on, all because of confusion. It's coming. Open your eyes up, folks. Open them up. Wake up. I do see changes coming when it comes to following the scriptures. It's kind of funny, you know? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I just thought of something, folks. I'm not trying to mock none. Oh, Lord God Almighty, hallelujah. Praise be to Jesus. Okay. I'm not mocking nothing here when I say that. But let's just say if. Let's just say if, okay? I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Let's just say if Jesus buried the old covenant in the tomb with them, could that be the same reason why we should not love one another, lose our patience, kill one another? Because I mean, they're actually part of the Ten Commandments. It's in the old covenant. Thou shalt not lie. Okay, so that gives me manipulation power. That I could just manipulate you on a spiritual level. That you know this and this and that, the other thing. Because you do realize that manipulation is actually a emotional excuse to lie. It's actually a lie. It's twisted and demented, is what it is. Okay. Folks, you guys are training yourselves right there in the seats of the pews. You're training yourself to be a narcissist. For some of you, this is scary. It's all about me, and anything that has nothing to do about me, well, it's all a sin. And it don't even matter if it's a sin or not. It's still a sin because I don't believe it. Well, who dictated you to change all the rules? The Ten Commandments still there. But that's what's happening. It's leading up to the stage of the church confrontation. Now, for some of you that are spiritual, you're probably looking at this in the way of, for the visual, you're probably looking at this in the way of either third party intervention, toxic family dynamics, or it could even be a toxic community. Okay. That's probably how you're seeing it as a spiritualist. But I see spiritualists who are also Christians. And like I said, it's because we purposely planted them in that field for the purpose of healing. Healing is not about putting your hand on somebody and praying and then not believing and wondering why God didn't heal a person. Because actually you're cursing God at the very moment that you don't believe. So it's no wonder why some people are going through heartaches and things like that. They are chasing after the visual, where they have to see it to believe it. So now they're sitting there going to readers and spiritual healers and things like that. They're spiritually guided by the angels here and God Almighty themselves on purpose to do the healing so that they would be able to show them the way. Because obviously a pastor that should know better is sitting there up there at the pulpit judging, worrying about sprinkling versus dipping in the water, or if someone's a homosexual and if they're not. Or somebody watches scary movies and another person does. I don't care. And here's the funny thing about the whole situation. As much as I'm sitting here talking with care about these different things, folks, God does care for you, which is why justly, on a righteous level, he's saying he will offer you a positive or a negative consequence based off of your choice and your action. Some of you may know it as karma or karmic justice. I will tell you, you're not going to get karmic justice if there's a bunch of lies filled in your mouth or a bunch of jealousies in your mind, envy in your heart, slothfulness with your feet, not moving, stagnant. You're not going to get karmic justice that way. And nobody is just going to sit there and hand it to you either. And you're hearing it from the main person that God would even choose. Raguel is the angel of justice, of judgment, fairness, and love. And Begin to hear some voice right through the screen here tonight. One thing that I can be very upfront with you is that karmic, toxic family dynamics. Why are you teaching your kids to not love toward other people? All because you have a judgment towards a person? Do you think that you're going to keep getting your blessings like you've been getting? Do you honestly think that? Because here, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now so that you don't have to think too hard. You cannot be blessed having behavior like that. Make it known now you are no longer ignorant of that behavior. If you're reaching this video and you hear this voice, do understand that. In time for you, this will be needed. There is no abracadabra here. And let me tell you, the servant Samuel. First of all, I will be upfront and very honest. I am a self-learner when it even comes to tarot. I don't know tarot from a lick. I'm actually getting the messages directly from the angels. But that doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm talking about through these. It just simply means that I get my guidance outside of the realms. So be careful that although we have been noticing that there are fake people out there giving readings. And when I say fake people, I'm not talking about that you are fake. What I'm talking about is that the readings are fake because they are based off of ego. They're based off of your experiences and not necessarily, okay, asking God, what is the message in that? So, for example, if you're at the point right now where you're looking for love and you see like the Ten of Swords, for example, you're probably going to say, oh, well, the love of your life had either A, betrayed you, or B, had put a painful ending to you. Well, a Ten of Swords means so much more than that, but because understand that it can also go right back to the beginning. So you can go back up. All right, think about it. If you're at the bottom already, what more can you do but to only go back up? Stand on your 2 feet and stop wallowing in your fears of that Ten of Swords. So if it ever shows up in a spread for any reason, a true healer, first of all, must understand to do this work without ego. Ego is not accepted. You must have your heart chakra open. You must have your sacral chakra open. You must be rooted. You must be able to understand your intuition, have your mind open, your heart open, your feet ready to walk, stand and be balanced. So you're trying to give, even if you're trying to do spiritual therapy with a broken heart, you probably want to give it a break because it's not the right time to do it. Because obviously it's going to be of the ego. It's not going to be about, oh, well, the message of what it truly is. I've noticed that the Ace of Cups, most of the time, about 90% of the time, I would see it as readers saying that it's going to be a new love coming in. Okay. The other 10%, it's usually about, oh, it's going to be newfound feelings for a person. Not saying all of you, but there's very slim of you that honestly know what an Ace of Cups actually represents. And to be very honest, I'll give you a huge hint. It has something to do with what you're going to put in it. Think about what I said tonight. You put wine, whiskey, or whatever, and it's going to literally slow you down. But if you ferment it and make something healthy out of it, it will open you up. So if you notice, the cup is overflowing. It is filled, water flows. Nothing is closed on this cup. Nothing. And the hand is handing it out. But it's more than just, somebody is giving you love, or you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's automatically going to be like, someone's in love with you, or something of that sort. In fact, 9 times out of 10, this is going to have something to do with somebody showing their love towards you overflowingly. You're not going to get that with everybody. You can sit here and have 40 readings in a week with the same person, and that same cup will show up. And what are you going to do? Say, oh, well, I guess that person's going to show you love too, right? Well, what about the fake person that was pretending to show you love? See, that's why I need clarification. So for some of you, because I do know we watch some therapists around here, okay? Some of them are like, oh, I see the Page of Cups, I see the Ace of Cups, I see the Ten of Cups, I see the Ten of Pentacles. All right, 4 of Wands, yep, this is a marriage, a strong commitment, whatever, right? 6 months later, person comes by and is like, well, I broke up with the same person that you said I was having a wish fulfillment, new love, and gonna be married and have a commitment, be at long term. How did that happen? Oh, I don't know. Maybe you must have had the devil. Well, then spiritual therapy, spiritual healing, both intertwining together. There's the reason why you are supposed to be working at this. It's not about what's only coming in, but it's about what has been at play, so that that person would not have had to go through a draining lesson yet again. Now, I do know that sometimes people are hired on from the ethers to purposely allow them to deal with karmic lessons. Well, there is a difference in that, because it would also be spoken about. You would actually know what the lesson is. You would be able to determine the lesson and would be able to help them through it, but not necessarily guide them out of it. Because purposely, you are there to let them know it's coming and that they're going to have to deal with it. So for some of you, if you're trying to get clarity and you're wondering why you're not able to get anything, it's because the Holy Spirit is basically saying that part you're not supposed to know. But getting off of the topic here, because I'm getting off of the topic, when it comes to the churches, because I'm being told to stay on topic about the Laodicean church. When you are in the Laodicean church, what you will have is a vibe where everybody it feels like they have to be forced to welcome you in. If it feels like you're forcing them to welcome you in and not necessarily really welcoming you in, then it's because they are not taking their position seriously. They are faking it. And it's really all about faking it till you make it type of situation. And it's sad when you have a whole group of people that would literally, that you would think literally is there to be by your side. But in actuality, stabbing you in the back or gossiping or just saying things that otherwise, if they would have came back to you, would have probably hurted you. This is not acceptable behavior. And it won't be tolerated. The good news on that front is that these would be churches that would actually have padlocks on them. So if you are dealing with a church that has done this, if they are habitually doing this with other people as well, and they're not learning from their lesson, do understand that this is the last warning. To get it right. And you only got through autumn to get it right. We're not going to sit here and play around with that. See, because what we're doing is we're actually playing around with other souls when this happens. We've been giving a whole lot of chances to fix specific issues, and it just seems like it only gets worse and worse and worse. So for the collective out there, if you're attending a church and you feel like you're feeling a vibe like, well, why do I feel like I'm forced to be here? It's probably because your vibe is telling you that, someone is, because you're never forced, but at the same time, you shouldn't have a vibe where it's like, okay, why am I not feeling welcome to the place, even though that they are trying to show that they're welcoming? And believe me, they will get uncomfortable because they will start to tell you a whole bunch of things. Because it happened to me where I've been told that people were uncomfortable just because she gave them a hug in the church. Okay. Oh my goodness. It was a sin to give somebody a hug. And it was all because the person thought that the person was a homosexual right from the get-go. Their judgment toward a person had shown so much hatred to the point that they had to finally let it loose. There was no way of actually faking it. They were getting frustrated right in the same pew. This is honestly, this is definitely something very, very strange. And it's like even with me, Raguel, Jeremiel, Ariel, Metatron, Celephon, Archangel Michael, Gabriel. Shoot, there's at least 3 other angels, all by my side. Okay. During this horrible time that I've had in the past year, between somebody stealing something from me and then actually legitimately being backstabbed. I'll be honest, I don't know who was the fake friend. If it was a friend themselves or if it was actually just a toxic family dynamic. I'm pretty sure Raggio would be able to tell me straight up. The reason is because the reason that it's not clear cut answer is because they're trying to work on them right now. But I feel like only one is really listening. But how in the world? I really don't know. What I do know is that when I'm being called to do spiritual healing, I'm able to have the power to be able to manifest things even within the darkest and lowest moments. Now, I'm not saying that everything is 100% clear cut. Because one thing that I did learn is that I had to know what investments I needed to invest in and what things I needed to not invest in. And the things that I'm stuck with, if they're not really investing in anything, then I need to learn to walk away from them. And so right now, what I feel like, and I still feel like it to this day, I feel like I was being forced to walk away from a friendship all because of a judgment that was not true. While all at the same time, I'm now legitimately walking away because there's nothing really to invest in it. That person hasn't even showed true face. Even though that I'm being told several times that there could be a reconciliation, the problem is that when you're joining forces between good and evil, sometimes it's always safe to say just have the patience and let it come to you. And that's what I'm doing. That's the only choice that I have right now. I hope that this has helped you guys out there in understanding the reigns of the angels and how they have supported me and what they are doing in regards to the Laodicean church and the messages I'm getting intuitively about that. Now, tomorrow afternoon, once I am done watching my church stuff, I will come back on live again, and I will be talking about some things relating to the modern day Babylon, the modern day Babylon, and why certain prophecies are going to start unraveling in order for the new to actually take place. So this is going to be more of a prophecy type based message, more so than spiritual or anything else. So stay tuned for that. All right. Till next time, have a blessed evening. Remember to unleash the artist within and let your light shine through Jesus. Peace.